The sun casts golden streaks across the shimmering blue water, laughter and chatter filling the air as families lounge under large umbrellas. The Westbridge Estates community pool is a pristine gated oasis, available only to residents and their guests. Everything about the place screams exclusivity, from the stone-tiled deck to the uniformed pool attendants ensuring everything remains in order. Near the pool's edge, Danielle Carter settles onto a reclining lounge chair. She adjusts her sunglasses and exhales, letting the tension of the past few weeks melt away. It's been a whirlwind of events since she was elected as the youngest mayor in the city's history, an achievement she worked tirelessly for. But for now, politics can wait. Today, she just wants to relax. She dips her toes into the water, sighing contentedly, before reaching for her book, The Power of Rest and Reset. It's a rare moment of peace. Until, the shrill voice shatters the tranquility. Danielle barely glances up, assuming the woman must be addressing someone else, but no. Karen Whitman, the self-appointed enforcer of the Homeowners Association, stands before her, arms crossed over her chest, mouth twisted in a disapproving scowl. Karen Whitman, 50S, blonde bob, crisp white sun hat, and an air of entitlement. The type of woman who writes strongly worded emails about the length of her neighbor's grass. Danielle keeps her expression neutral. Here we go. Karen. I don't believe we've met. Danielle removes her sunglasses, her dark brown eyes locking on to Karen's pale blue ones. Danielle politely, No, I don't believe we have. Karen shifts her weight, as if sizing her up. Karen. Are you a guest here? The question isn't casual. There's an edge to it, a presumption. Danielle sets her book down. Danielle, no, I live here. Karen's brow furrows, her lips pressing into a thin line. Caring. I find that hard to believe. Danielle's patience tightens, but she doesn't let it show. Danielle. And why is that? Karen's eyes flick to the few white families scattered around, then back to Danielle. Karen. It's just that, well, I know everyone in this community, and I don't recall seeing you at any of our HOA meetings. Danielle leans back in her chair, folding her hands in her lap. Danielle. Maybe because I have a full-time job and don't have the luxury of debating fence heights and mailbox colors. Karen's nostrils flare. Karen. Rules and regulations are what keep this community in order. Danielle bites back a sigh. She's dealt with plenty of Karens before, but something about this one, her stiff posture, the way she clutches her phone like a weapon, sets off alarms in her mind. Karen, I'm going to have to ask for your resident ID or guest pass. Danielle tilts her head. You're joking, right? Karen. No, I'm not. If you truly live here, I'm sure you won't mind providing proof. A few heads turn. A mother, sitting with her children by the shallow end, exchanges a nervous glance with her husband. A teenage lifeguard, awkwardly standing near the diving board, hesitates before looking away. Danielle exhales through her nose. Daniels, I'm not sharing you anything. You're not security, and you're certainly not law enforcement. Karen gasps as if personally offended. Karen, excuse me? Danielle. Calmly. You heard me. I don't need to prove anything to you. Karen's grip tightens on her phone. Karen. Fine. If you won't comply, I'll call security. Danielle lets out a dry chuckle. Dance yourself out. Karen's eyes widen at the lack of fear in Danielle's expression. She isn't used to being challenged, especially not by someone who refuses to grovel or appease her. With exaggerated urgency, she taps on her phone, pressing it to her ear. Karen. Yes, hello. I'm calling to report a suspicious person at the Westbridge Community Pool. Danielle scoffs. Danielle. Suspicious. Karen continues, throwing glances toward the gathering crowd. Karen. Yes, she's refusing to leave. No, she won't show me her ID. I don't know, she just doesn't look like she belongs here. There it is. That unspoken but deafening accusation. Danielle slowly stands, slipping her sunglasses onto the neckline of her swimsuit cover-up. Danielle, you should be very careful with your words, Karen. Karen spins around, still clutching her phone. Karen. Oh, so now I'm being threatened? Danielle shakes her head, crossing her arms. Danielle, no, not at all. Just letting you know that what you're doing right now, racially profiling someone, won't age well for you. Karen huffs, ignoring her. Karen, yes, send security immediately. Minutes later, 2 uniformed security guards, Officer Mitchell, mid-40s, slightly built, with a calm demeanor, and Officer Hayes, early 30s, more rigid, cautious, enter the pool area. Karen immediately rushes toward them. Colin. Thank goodness you're here. That woman over there is trespassing. Officer Mitchell eyes Danielle, then back at Karen. Officer Mitchell. All right, ma'am. Let's take a step back and handle this professionally. Danielle doesn't flinch as the officers approach. Officer Hayes, ma'am, we just need to confirm your residency. Danielle looks directly at him. Danielle, you mean you need to confirm whether I have the right to exist in this space? Officer Hayes shifts slightly. Officer Hayes, that's not what I said, ma'am. Danielle, but that's what you meant. Karen folds her arms smugly. Karen, if she really lives here, why won't she just show her ID? Danielle clenches her jaw, then exhales, forcing herself to keep her composure. Danielle, because I don't have to. Before the officers can respond, a voice cuts through the tension. Mater Carter? Everyone turns. Standing at the entrance, dressed in business casual, is Eric Langston, Danielle's assistant. He rushes toward her, a folder in hand, completely out of breath. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was crazy. He finally notices the security presence and Karen's smug expression. Eric. Wait a minute, what's going on? Danielle smirks. Danielle. Ooh, nothing, just Karen here assuming I don't belong. Karen's face loses color. Karen. Excuse me? Eric turns to security. Are you serious? This is Mayor Danielle Carter. She owns a home here. The silence that follows is deafening. Karen's jaw drops. The officers share an awkward glance. Residents who had been watching shift uncomfortably, some exchanging whispers. Danielle just tilts her head, watching Karen's world crumble in real time. Finally, she steps forward, her voice smooth as silk. Danielle. Now, Karen, would you like to see my ID now? Fade to black. The Westbridge Estates community pool is now eerily silent. The once vibrant hum of laughter and splashes has faded into the background. A dozen residents sit frozen in their lounge chairs, others shifting uncomfortably as they steal glances at the confrontation unfolding in front of them. Karen Whitman, who had just been so sure of herself, now stands stiff, gripping her phone like a lifeline. The realization of her mistake is settling in, but she's not the type to admit she's wrong. Not yet. Danielle Carter, poised as ever, tilts her head slightly, watching the mix of emotions flicker across Karen's face. Shock, disbelief, and something else that looks an awful lot like panic. Security officers Mitchell and Hayes exchange glances. This situation has now officially spiraled beyond the typical HOA complaint. Eric, Danielle's assistant, still catching his breath, glances between everyone. Haley, wait. So, let me get this straight. You called security on the mayor? He lets out a disbelieving chuckle. Oh, this is rich. Karen stammers, her cheeks flushing red. Karen. I didn't know she was the mayor. Danielle. And what exactly made you assume I didn't belong here? Karen hesitates. It's a loaded question, and the eyes of nearly every resident are now on her. Karen. It's not about that. We have rules in place, too. Danielle, see, rules that you only seem to enforce on people who look like me. Evident. Karen. That's not fair. Daniel laughed. Oh, you mean like how it wasn't fair that I was enjoying a peaceful afternoon when you marched over, demanded my ID, and called security? That kind of not fair? Karen clenches her jaw. She's floundering and she knows it. Security. Officer Mitchell sighs and steps forward, speaking in a careful tone. Officer Mitchell. Mayor Carter, I sincerely apologize for the misunderstanding. We were called under the assumption that... Danielle raises a hand, stopping him mid-sentence. Danielle, let me ask you something, officer. If I had been a white woman sitting here, do you think we'd be having this conversation right now? A beat. Mitchell hesitates, his lips pressing together. He knows the answer. Everyone does. Officer Hayes, clearing his throat, we don't want to escalate the situation any further. I think it's clear there's been a mistake. Karen whips her head toward them. Karen, are you seriously just letting this go? Officer McCallan. Ma'am, there is nothing to let go of. Karen's lips part in disbelief. She's losing control of the situation, and she hates it. The crowd reacts. A murmur ripples through the pool area. Some residents look away uncomfortably. Others whisper among themselves. Then a voice pipes up. Older woman, halting her, said, Karen, you just couldn't help yourself, could you? Karen spins around, her expression defensive. Karen, excuse me? Marta. We've seen you do this before. Every time a black family moves in, you're suddenly concerned about rules. Funny, you didn't question the 3 teenagers who snuck in last week to use the hot tub. Karen blanches. Karen. That's different. Younger resident. Mark 30S, dad with kids. Crossing his arms. Is it because I've lived here for 4 years and I've never been asked to show my resident ID? Not once. A few nods of agreement ripple through the crowd. Karen feels the shift in the energy around her. The cracks in her authority are starting to show. Karen's last stand. Karen, realizing she's backed into a corner, doubles down. Carrie, this isn't about race, it's about following protocol. Danielle shakes her head, letting out a soft chuckle. Danielle. Karen, do you hear yourself? The only protocol here was the one you made up when you saw me at this pool. Karen is seething, but she's losing steam. Daniel's statement. Danielle turns, addressing not just Karen, but everyone. Daniel. This community is supposed to be a place where people feel safe. But people like Karen make that impossible. Because no matter what I've achieved, no matter what home I own, I will never be enough for people who see my skin before they see me. A heavy silence follows. Downward. This isn't just about me. It's about every black family that's been made to feel like outsiders in their own neighborhood. It's about how power gets abused, how assumptions are made, and how people like Karen never have to face consequences for their action. Karen scoffs, crossing her arms. Karen. Oh, please. Spare me the speech. Danielle smiles. A dangerous, knowing smile. Danielle, oh, don't worry, Karen. I'm done talking. She reaches into her bag and pulls out an official-looking document, unfolding it with a flick of her wrist. Karen squints, her irritation morphing into suspicion. Karen, what's that? Danielle asked. Oh, just an upcoming city council proposal. One that would allow homeowners to vote on new HOA leadership. And guess what? I fully intend to back it. Karen's face drains of color. Karen, yeah, you can't do that. Danielle shrugs. Daniel L's. Oh, but I can. And the best part? I have a feeling the community won't be too eager to keep you in charge after today. She glances around, and sure enough, residents are nodding. Karen's hands shake at her sides. For the first time, she's truly panicking. Karen, you can't be serious. Daniel. Welcome to accountability, sweetheart. Karen stands frozen, unable to respond. Danielle grabs her things, adjusting her sunglasses as she steps away from the poolside. Before she leaves, she turns one last time. Danielle. Oh, and Karen? Next time? Maybe don't assume so much. With that, Danielle walks off, head held high. As the stunned crowd watches, the Westbridge Estates community pool is no longer a battleground. The sun has dipped lower in the sky, casting a warm glow over the water. The tension that had thickened the air has finally begun to dissipate, but the residents who had witnessed the spectacle still linger. Some are murmuring to one another, others still watching as Karen Whitman stands frozen, gripping the edges of her sun hat like it's the only thing keeping her together. She says to all of those who would know her without asking, "Nice having you as a relative, last time you were here." Her world has just collapsed in real time. Across the pool deck, Danielle Carter calmly gathers her things, her victory solidified in the silence that follows her. Eric Langston, her assistant, walks beside her, stifling a grin. I was brutal. Yeah. Danielle, eh? Adjusting her sunglasses. What can I say? I'm a fan of poetic justice. Behind them, Officer Mitchell and Officer Hayes step away from the scene, sharing an unspoken understanding. They had been part of something bigger than just another HOA dispute. Karen still hasn't moved. She watches as Danielle heads toward the exit, her fists tightening at her sides. She opens her mouth, perhaps to make one last desperate attempt to regain control, but before she can speak, another voice cuts through. Elder woman, Martha, 70, resident. Just let it go. Karen whips around. Karen? Excuse me. Martha, the outspoken retiree who had called her out earlier, folds her arms. Martha, it's over. Everyone saw what happened, and frankly, we're tired of you embarrassing this community. Younger resident, 30s, father of 2 sons. Nodding, she's right. You act like you own this place. Karen's face pales further. Karen, I was doing what's best for the neighborhood. You were humiliating someone for no reason. Murmurs of agreement ripple through the crowd. Karen looks around, realizing, perhaps for the first time, that she is alone. Her once ironclad authority in the neighborhood is crumbling in front of her eyes. Another resident, clairvoyant, 40s, mother of 2, steps forward. Say, "Exoplasm. I think it's time for you to step down from the HOA board, Karen." Karen blinks. Karen, you can't be serious. Martha smirks. Martha, we can, and we are. Karen stumbles back a step, the weight of it all crashing down. Her worst nightmare is coming true. The neighborhood, the very place where she once ruled with an iron fist, has finally turned on her. Danielle and Eric reach the gated entrance when Karen finally finds her voice again. Karen, wait. Danielle pauses, then turns slowly. Karen is unraveling. Karen, are you really going through with this city council proposal? Danielle smiles. Danielle, Karen, sweetie, what do you think? Karen's breathing hitches. Karen, you don't have to do this. Danielle tilts her head, amused. Danielle, neither did you. But you did it anyway. A beat. Karen's shoulders slump. Danielle steps closer, lowering her voice just enough for Karen to hear. Danielle, this isn't about revenge. This is about change. You had years to be better, to be fair, to treat everyone in this neighborhood with the same respect you demand for yourself. And instead, you played gatekeeper. You abused your power. Now, you're facing the consequences. Karen looks away, unable to respond. Danielle, softly, being next time, try being a better person. And with that, Danielle turns and walks away. Karen is left standing alone at the pool she once thought she controlled. 1 week later. The Westbridge Estates HOA meeting is more crowded than ever. The community clubhouse, usually half empty, is packed wall to wall. Homeowners, neighbors, even a few reporters. They're all here. Karen sits at the front, her hands trembling as she watches the turnout. She already knows how this is going to end. The vote takes less than 10 minutes. By an overwhelming majority, Karen Whitman is officially voted out as HOA president. Her reign is over. As she leaves the meeting, a few neighbors avoid eye contact, while others whisper as she passes. The weight of public shame is crushing. She locks eyes with Danielle, who simply gives her a polite, knowing nod. Karen lowers her gaze and walks away. She knows she brought this on herself. Later that evening, at Daniel's house, Danielle sits on her balcony, looking over the quiet, tranquil streets of Westbridge Estates. The neighborhood, her neighborhood, finally feels like home. Eric walks out, handing her a glass of wine. Eric, grinning, so, how does it feel to single-handedly take down the most insufferable woman in Westbridge history? Danielle chuckles, shaking her head. Daniel Edel, I didn't take her down. She did that to herself. Eric raises his glass. Eric, to poetic justice, then. Danielle clinks her glass against his. Daniel to progress. She leans back in her chair, finally at peace. Faith to black.